You're useless. You should stay behind at the office. It's good you figured out you couldn't join before getting to the meeting spot.
My grandson Tyler, who had set out for a company trip, came back home just 5 minutes after leaving. On top of that, he was getting verbally abused over the phone by his boss, Bob. When the call ended, Tyler slowly turned to face me.
It's actually good because I had some work piled up. Plus, I've been causing trouble, so it can't be helped.
Tyler mumbled as if convincing himself. He seemed to be under a lot of mental stress. Bob's unacceptable behavior needed to be dealt with properly. Leave it to me. I'll handle it. You did well. I operated my smartphone, opened the contacts app, and tapped Bob's number. My name is Michael. I'm in my 60s and currently invest in local businesses, helping with their management. I originally started my own business and worked as an entrepreneur. But 5 years ago, my wife fell ill, and I couldn't spare the time. So I stepped down from managing the business. I sold all the companies, so I have more than enough assets. I could start something new. But after my wife, whom I had devotedly nursed, passed away 3 years ago, I lost the motivation to start anything new. However, humans fundamentally have a desire to be socially fulfilled. Although I no longer have the energy to start something from scratch, I've been contributing to society by investing in companies that share my values. Most of these are local businesses, and it makes me happy to see the community thrive. Moreover, since I invest, I can somewhat keep track of the management situation and discuss strategies, feeling that I can still exert some of my past managerial skills. In fact, I've helped turn around several companies that were on the brink of collapse. One of these companies is where my grandson Tyler works, so I feel a bit proud of my efforts. I'm sure my wife is watching from heaven, praising me, saying, "Well done." Tyler is my daughter's only son, but he rarely received care from his parents. My daughter, a nurse, lost her husband early and often worked night shifts, so she couldn't spend much time with her child compared to a typical family. Thus, Tyler mostly lived at my house with his grandmother and me. I take pride in having raised Tyler in place of his father. Tyler grew up to be a genuinely kind and responsible young man, and I felt reassured when he got a job at a company I invested in. However, since his second year of employment, Tyler's expression hasn't been good. At home, he always seemed distressed, so I decided to subtly ask him about it. "Tyler, how's work going these days? It looks like you're working in your room even after you come home. Work-life balance is important, you know. It's essential to generate profit in the companies I invest in, but it's even more crucial to value the employees, especially in the companies I invest in, which, despite having admirable principles, often struggle with management. When receiving investment at the brink of bankruptcy, many managers focus solely on profits to revive their business. However, that approach never works. Even though a company aims to make a profit, it's run by people. A company that doesn't value its employees and consider their job satisfaction and life fulfillment will inevitably fail. I always advise them to cherish their employees before making an investment. If employees, starting with Tyler, are suffering, it's a bad sign, I thought, but Tyler shook his head slowly.
Both work and private life are fulfilling. Work is tough, But that's not just for me. It's natural to get busier as you gain more responsibilities.
He said with a laugh, but his smile was somewhat stiff. He's always been a resilient child, so he's probably pushing himself too hard. Worried, I asked further. Even so, don't overdo it. If you ruin your health, it's all for nothing. I'll ask the president to review employees' workloads to ensure proper management. Tyler shook his head and said, please don't.
If they find out my relative is an investor, the president and bosses will treat me differently, and I don't know how other employees will see me. I'll handle my issues on my own, so please just leave it be.
Tyler said so, but I have the right to intervene if there's dissatisfaction with management. However, it would be strange if exercising my rights caused problems for Tyler. After some hesitation, I decided to stick to the minimum necessary confirmation. I see. But surely you're getting overtime pay, right? Considering you bring work home, how's that handled?
They have to handle that part properly, of course. Anyway, don't worry. I'm not a child.
His delayed response felt off, but I chose to trust Tyler's words for now. The president of Tyler's company is passionate about work and profit pursuit, but he has an old-fashioned, sports team-like mentality unsuitable for today's world. Despite that, I empathized with his desire for social contribution, leading to my investment after many discussions. He seemed to understand my point, so I want to believe he's not neglecting the employees. Since I still have opportunities to visit the company and attend meetings, I'll be able to get a grasp of the situation then. Worried, I watched Tyler return to his room. Even though I trust Tyler, I continue to worry about him. Usually, when he comes home from work, he eats dinner, takes a bath, and then stays in his room. However, on this particular day, he went straight to his room as soon as he got home. Curious, I held my breath outside Tyler's room and heard some voices coming from inside. Is he talking to someone on the phone? Feeling it was wrong to eavesdrop, I stepped back a little and waited for the conversation to end. However, the call didn't seem to end anytime soon. Just when I thought it was finally over, it seemed like he started another conversation with a different person. Suspecting something, I quietly knocked on Tyler's door and entered his room to find him talking while using a headset and microphone while operating his computer. At a moment when Tyler finished the call, I said, "You need to stop this." Startled by my voice, Tyler turned around with a jolt.
How long have you been there? I'm working, so if you need something, can you come back later?
Tyler's voice trailed off, indicating he didn't want me to know what was going on. I sensed his feelings, but I was too worried about my grandson and was starting to feel uneasy about the management practices of the company I had invested in. Working? You just got home from work. And what kind of task are you doing? Is this really your job? The company Tyler works for isn't a large corporation, so even though he was hired as a systems engineer, he sometimes has to handle some administrative tasks and sales. I understood that, but what Tyler was doing now seemed like customer service work. It was clearly beyond the scope of Tyler's job. Making employees work during the day and then handle phone and chat support after they get home. What a company. While some people may appreciate working overnight due to their schedules, it's unacceptable to make regular employees do that. As I trembled with anger, Tyler's work phone vibrated. Is that a work email? Let me see it.
Please don't. I'll check it myself.
Tyler's desire not to worry me came through, but he looked as if he was about to collapse from exhaustion. It's no use, I said firmly, which I usually wouldn't do, and took the phone from Tyler to check the email. Reading it, I couldn't help but exclaim, "This is terrible." The email was from Bob, the department manager, and it said,
Is the work progressing smoothly? The key is to build trust with our customers. Make sure to respond sincerely to any inquiries and provide satisfactory answers. Since you understand the internal workings of the company, you should be able to answer immediately. Once you get used to it, I'll increase your tasks, so try to be quick.
After reading it, I looked at Tyler. He seemed to have realized the email was from Bob and started making excuses to cover up.
Recently, a lot of employees at the customer service center have been quitting. I'm just holding the fort until we can hire new people, so I'll do my best.
I wanted to shout, "Don't be ridiculous. It's unacceptable to burden employees like that." However, there was no point in complaining to Tyler. I placed a hand on Tyler's shoulder and spoke quietly. There's no job worth ruining your health over. First, have dinner and take a bath. But, Tyler began, but I cut him off and made him leave the room. I sighed in front of the computer. I need to arrange a meeting with the president as soon as possible. With that in mind, I started making preparations. The following week, I was surprised to find Tyler at home during a weekday, so I asked him, "Do you have the day off today?" It's rare to have a weekday off. Unlike the weekends, the town will be less crowded and you can relax. Of course, you can also just chill at home, I said cheerfully. But Tyler didn't look happy. As I waited silently, Tyler started to explain his situation bit by bit.
Actually, I asked for the morning off. I need to go to the hospital.
A lot of questions came to mind, so I voiced my concerns. Are you not feeling well? Why not take the whole day off? Which hospital are you going to? I can give you a ride. Though I thought I might be coddling him, Tyler, who rarely complained, was now saying he wasn't feeling well. However, as expected, Tyler shook his head.
I'm an adult now. You don't need to be so overprotective. Besides, they're short-staffed, so I've been told to come in after my appointment.
Was it Bob who told you that? Tyler nodded slowly in response to my question. No way. What kind of manager makes an employee come in after seeing a doctor when they're not feeling well? Fuming with anger, I spoke in a trembling voice. We need to replace the management. First, I need to hear more details. As I reached for my smartphone, Tyler hastily snatched it away.
Please don't. It would make me look pathetic, like I can't handle my own problems. When things get tough, I'll talk to my boss myself. If they don't understand, I'll come to you for advice.
Seeing the plea in his eyes, all I could do was nod. I have a meeting scheduled with Bob soon. I can address this issue then. I decided to hold out until that day. But when Tyler returned from the hospital, a new truth came to light. I had assumed Tyler was just dealing with a cold or something similar, but it turned out to be something else entirely. I discovered this when Tyler was changing clothes in his room to go to work. His wallet was left on the living room table, and out of curiosity, I peeked inside to see which hospital he had gone to. As expected, Tyler's wallet contained a hospital ID card, but the hospital name left me speechless. Tyler had been seeing a psychiatrist. His mind must have been pushed to the limit, to the point where he had to seek professional help. It's known that getting an appointment at this psychiatric hospital is quite difficult. Even if you manage to get an appointment, it's common for the counseling session to be scheduled a month later, leading many patients to give up in the meantime. Tyler must be dealing with significant issues to go through such lengths for a consultation. As I held Tyler's wallet, his smartphone, placed next to it, buzzed with a new message. It wasn't his company phone, so I wondered if Bob was being unreasonable in his personal life too. Restless and worried, I checked the message displayed on the screen without any guilt. To my relief, it wasn't from Bob. The message was from someone named Emma, and it read,
"Did you manage to go to the hospital? I hope everything is okay. Please take it easy today and rest."
Perhaps Emma was a colleague of Tyler's. Knowing there was someone who cared about my grandson brought me a little comfort. But I was reaching my limit, so I barged into Tyler's room to persuade him. "Stop wearing yourself out for work already." I must have looked furious as I suddenly entered the room. Tyler, initially wide-eyed, sank into his chair and said, "You saw it, didn't you?"
The physical issues are real. The internal medicine department couldn't find the cause, so they referred me to today's hospital.
Here, Tyler handed me a card from the internal medicine department as proof. Indeed, there was a record of a visit from about a month ago.
And there's that company trip I mentioned, right? I'm really looking forward to it. I don't want to go with any bad vibes, so please don't make a fuss.
With that, Tyler said, "I'm heading out," and left for work. All I could do was hold the medical card and say, "Take care," as I watch his back. Since then, Tyler hasn't shown signs of being bedridden or losing his expression, so I've decided to keep an eye on him as usual. The day of the company trip that Tyler had mentioned came quickly, and he left the house cheerfully saying, "I'm off." Though work must be stressful, a company trip would allow him to relax a bit. I hoped Emma, who had messaged Tyler, was also going on the trip. I was looking forward to hearing about his trip when he returned. But just 5 minutes after leaving, Tyler came back home. "What happened? Did you forget something?" I asked with a smile. But Tyler didn't look happy. "Did something happen?" I asked, and Tyler slowly began to speak.
I got a worried call from a colleague saying my name wasn't on the employee trip roster.
In the middle of his story, Tyler's smartphone rang. He sighed as he looked at the screen and answered the call. From Tyler's smartphone, I could hear the cheerful voice of Manager Bob.
A useless person like you should stay behind at the office. It's good you figured out you can't join before reaching the meetup spot.
Completely drained, Tyler absent-mindedly responded and hung up the phone. Then he slowly turned to face me.
I've got work piled up, so it's just as well. And I've been a bother lately, so it can't be helped.
He mumbled as if to convince himself. Then, tears welling up in his eyes, he rushed into the bathroom and didn't come out. Shaking with anger, I slowly walked up to the bathroom door. From behind the door, I could hear Tyler sobbing. He must be really struggling mentally. Bob needs to be held accountable. "Leave it to me. I'll take care of it." "You did well." I took out my smartphone, opened the contacts app, and tapped Bob's number. The call rang for a while. but there was no sign he was going to answer. Thinking he might be having fun at Tyler's expense, I was truly furious. I had the contact information for the president of the company I had invested in, hoping to hear his thoughts directly someday. While he's in high spirits, I'd like to give him a piece of my mind. I called Bob repeatedly, determined not to stop until he answered. Finally, it seemed like Bob picked up the phone, his voice sounding annoyed.
Who is this? I'm busy right now.
Michael speaking. Sorry to bother you during the employee trip. I'd like a moment of your time. I spoke as politely as I could to Bob, but he seemed utterly uninterested in changing his dismissive attitude.
If you know that, at least think about when you're calling. You sound old, can't you show some consideration? By the way, who are you exactly? Just saying your name doesn't tell me anything.
I could reveal my identity right away, but wanting to know more about Bob, I decided to keep the conversation going with minimal information. As you say, I have connections with the president of your company, and I wanted to ask about the internal situation of your company. Today might be difficult, but if you could spare some time later.
Fine, I'll contact you later. I'm hanging up now.
He cut me off mid-conversation and hung up. From his unshaken response, he either has a lot of nerve or is lacking in communication skills. Still unsatisfied, I called him again right after hanging up.
You're persistent. I told you to call back later.
He yelled so loudly I almost pulled the phone away from my ear, but I quickly asked what I needed to know. Just let me ask you this, and I won't contact you any further today. What do you think of your employees? Today, my grandson was supposed to go on an employee trip and was told the incompetent stay at the office. Hearing my words, Bob laughed out loud.
Got it. You're not an acquaintance of the president, but Tyler's grandfather. Crying to grandpa is just pathetic.
Can you answer my question? What do you think of your employees, your subordinates? My grandson is mentally devastated, I said sharply, and Bob replied with a mocking tone.
Look, I consider my subordinates as disposable pawns. If your precious boy fails, I'll just hire another new employee. That's just how companies work.
Hearing Bob's words, my course of action became clear. You're fired. No need to come to work tomorrow, I said, and there was silence on the other end of the phone. Then, after a moment, he burst out laughing.
Fired, huh? What can an old man like you do? Going to file a complaint?
Bob paused for a moment, then continued with a sneer.
We have a customer support department. Please contact them and tell them to fire Bob. I'm sure your grandson will handle it courteously.
With that, he unilaterally ended the call. I've decided on my future course of action, so there's no need to interact with him any further. It's clear enough that he's an unnecessary element in the company I invest in. I reached out to the relevant parties to take appropriate action. Later, at my request, I arranged a meeting with Tyler, Bob, and the president of Tyler's company. I also invited Emma, Tyler's colleague, to attend. She will undoubtedly provide a straightforward account of the situation. Expecting important testimony, I asked Emma to join us. The contents of the meeting were not disclosed to anyone except the president, so the others were not up to speed and appeared confused.
Sir, what is the agenda for today? I haven't prepared anything as you said we'd discuss it today.
Bob asked anxiously, but the president gave no answer. I had asked the president to understand the situation and primarily not to speak. I'm terribly sorry to trouble you all by gathering here today. This was strongly requested by me. My name is Michael. Nice to meet you. As I introduced myself, Bob looked startled.
I thought I recognized the voice. Michael, you're Tyler's grandfather, aren't you?
Although his words were polite since the president was present, his eyes clearly looked down on me. It was infuriating, but Bob was about to experience hell. He must be punished.
Tyler's grandfather, Tyler always helps me out. I'm Emma. Pleased to meet you.
Emma shook my hand gently. Just from the messages she had sent to Tyler, I knew she was a kind person, but her expression and voice also exuded her good nature.
So, Michael, why are you here? It's not usual for an employee's grandfather to attend an internal meeting.
The president glared at Bob, but he seemed unaware. Emma must have had the same question, so I finally clarified my position. I've spoken to Bob over the phone before, but I have a special connection with the president. Actually, I've made substantial investments in this company, so I have the right to have a say in the management policies. As I explained slowly, looking at everyone, both Bob and Emma showed surprised expressions. Bob, unlike Emma, turned pale, and sweat was visibly forming on the tip of his nose.
Is that so? When our management was struggling, was it you who offered financial support?
Bob checked for the president's reaction to confirm. He's old enough to have experienced times when his company was on the brink of collapse. Seeing the president slowly nod, Bob visibly shuddered.
That's right. We're very grateful for that. We also received advice on system development, which helped the company recover.
As Bob deeply appreciated it, Emma's eyes sparkled.
So that was it. I've always used this company's services, but I noticed significant improvements in the website and purchasing processes. It's amazing to know it was Tyler's grandfather who helped.
Emma smiled at Tyler. Tyler appeared somewhat embarrassed. I'm willing to invest and speak up in management to help a company I support to rebuild. I've shared the same idea about the systems and management philosophies with this company. Right, I asked the president, who nodded and spoke for the first time today.
A company must value people like employees and customers more than just pursuing profits.
That's what he said. However, there are people in this company's management who treat employees like pawns. I stated as if declaring it, and Bob flinched, obviously aware of it. Bob looked desperately at Tyler.
Who is that? I don't know any manager like that, right, Tyler?
Manager Bob asked in a feeble voice, but Tyler didn't answer. Instead, Emma spoke up.
I think it's well known since we're discussing it now. Honestly, it was painful to see how much pressure Tyler was under from his supervisor. He was driven to the point of needing to go to the hospital.
Emma choked up as if she was the one suffering, bravely explaining.
I really shouldn't have overlooked it, but I couldn't bring myself to act. Please, set up an independent committee to investigate. I beg you.
As Emma begged, Tyler did the same. Having resigned himself, Bob didn't speak again after that. Ultimately, his words and actions were seen as a major problem at the company, and he was put under investigation by an independent committee. His misdeeds are likely to be exposed now. From what I've heard, there were testimonies from employees other than Tyler who claimed to have suffered. I hope all the victims get the justice they deserve. Bob admitted to all the misconduct revealed by the committee and apparently offered his resignation. I don't know what he'll do next, but I hope he changes his heart and successfully reintegrates into society. I hope he has learned his lesson and will treat his colleagues and subordinates with respect in the future. Recently, Tyler has started saying something interesting. He says he wants to start his own business someday to contribute to society. I'm not sure what prompted this change of heart, but while I caution him that business isn't easy, I find his statement promising. Emma has also said she would support Tyler in this endeavor. Lately, they've been seeing each other often, and since their relationship deepened, Tyler's expression seems to have brightened. The future of our society will be shaped by young people like Tyler. I want to do what I can to help create a society where they can thrive.